All right, for more, I want to bring in Bill Press, host of the Bill Press Show, and David French, writer for the National Review. Thank you both for joining us. Bill, let me start with you. Is this something, word of this meeting, word of this exchange between Gorsuch and Richard Blumenthal, is this something that could reassure Democrats enough not to filibuster the nomination, not necessarily vote for him, but not to filibuster it?
Well, certainly, I don't think it hurts Judge Gorsuch to be so quoted. Without knowing it, maybe Donald Trump actually helped Gorsuch's case by making those comments. I trust Senator Blumenthal. I trust Judge Gorsuch that he was, in fact, disheartened and demoralized by those comments. And yes, I do think it will help Gorsuch's case, if true, and I believe it's true. I think it shows him to be the kind of independent thinker that Democrats might accept on the Supreme Court, if not welcome with open arms.
David, I'm curious what you make of this. There are so many different versions or theories about what's going on here floating around. You've got the idea that this is some kind of declaration of independence that Gorsuch is making. The suggestion's been out there that the White House orchestrated this in some way. Also, we raised the possibility there with Kelly O'Donnell of, hey, maybe Gorsuch was trying to sidestep the issue. Blumenthal was asking a specific question. There's some mixed signals there. What's your interpretation of this?
I think we're overcomplicating it. I think it's all variations, and all the various versions of what Gorsuch said are variations on a theme that is consistent with his worldview and jurisprudence. I mean, this is a judge who is known for a deep commitment to the separation of powers. One of his most important cases, a case called Gutierrez, is the judicial equivalent of a primal scream in favor of restricting the expansive power of the executive branch. So this is a judge who's dedicated much of his career to restoring a vision of the Constitution that puts three co-equal branches and does not elevate the presidency. So I think his general comments are consistent with that theme.
Steve, remember also that initially the judge's comments were confirmed by one of the White House aides, I forget his name right now, who was in the meeting. So whatever Kelly Ott says, you got another White House aide saying that's exactly what Judge Gorsuch said. Let's take him at his word.
Yeah, and I guess I'm trying to figure out, and it's almost certainly splitting hairs too much here, though. If this was a situation where Gorsuch was asked a pointed question by Blumenthal, and then Gorsuch said, he used the words, as the spokesman confirmed, he used the words demoralized and disheartened, but he's trying to draw some kind of a distinction. I'm not actually speaking about any case in particular. I'm just making a general statement. That's what the White House has indicated. But then at the briefing today, when Sean Spicer was asked, well, okay, in general, though, would President Trump continue making these comments about the judiciary in the future, about judges in the future? This is what Sean Spicer said. Let's play that.
The president will continue to speak like this.
Of course he will. The president's going to speak his mind. It goes back to Thomas Jefferson, that presidents have commented on judicial nominees. I mean, the idea of one branch talking about or commenting on another branch is as old as our republic.
What about that idea, David French? I'm curious because, for instance, the order that set this all off, when Donald Trump said on Twitter, so-called judge, his administration did follow the order. Certainly, we haven't seen a president attacking in words the judiciary like this, but in actions, he is still following it.
Well, right. I mean, there's a difference between crassness and a constitutional crisis. I mean, I think the tweet was a crass attack on the judge. I think it was an attack that the President of the United States should not make on a sitting federal judge. I mean, but we saw President Obama directly critique the Supreme Court to its face in the State of the Union address. He certainly did it in much more polite language, but the substance of it was an attack. But that doesn't mean that either President Obama or President Trump would refuse to follow and comply with the orders of the federal court. That's the really important critical issue.
Well,
I think the difference is,
Bill, I'll let you jump in a second, but I want to play, David mentioned it, and also Sean Spicer brought it up at the briefing.
Yeah.
This what Obama said in 2010 with the Supreme Court in front of him. It was about the Citizens United ruling. Here's that clip.
Yep.
With all due deference to separation of powers, last week the Supreme Court reversed a century of law that I believe will open the floodgates for special interests, including foreign corporations, to spend without limit in our elections.
So, Bill, the idea that it's much more polite, much more civil
Right.
language, but the same principle of criticizing.
No, it's not at all. Not at all. Let me tell you, first of all, I wrote a book about spin. What Sean Spicer did today was bad, bad, bad spin, no sale. But to say that these were a general response and not specifically to the president's tweet is wrong. I mean, he was asked about the president's tweet. That's what he responded to. And this idea that President Obama, we just heard, I'm glad you played it. President Obama was saying he disagreed with the decision. It was not a personal attack on the judge. That's what you get from Donald Trump during the primary, during the general campaign, and now as president, calling him a so-called judge. Back to that judge in San Diego. He said couldn't issue a fair opinion because his parents happened to come from Mexico. So it's the personal attack that makes this a difference, total different world than what President Obama did.
All right, Bill Press and David French, thank you both for taking a few minutes. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Steve.